Brad Bird for the win! Incredibles 2. So Incredibles 2 is the long-awaited sequel to Disney Pixar's The Incredibles. People have waited 14 years in anticipation for this, because people love The Incredibles. It's a lot of people's favorite Pixar movie, and rightfully so. I made a video on it. It's one of my favorites. It's about a family of superheroes. What's not to love? So in Incredibles 2, superheroes have come back into the spotlight after the events of the first movie. So Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and their buddy Frozone are called up by a man named Winston Dever, who's like, alright, let's make superheroes legal again, since superheroes are illegal in this world. And according to him, the best hero for the job is Elastigirl. So he sends her to do some hero work while Mr. Incredible is stuck taking care of the kids. And now we have our long-awaited sequel to The Incredibles. No pressure. Oh my god. This movie was great. It was so good. I mean, one of my fears was that Elastigirl was going to take all the spotlight in this movie and the family as a whole would take a backseat. I mean, superhero-wise anyways. We would just get to see a whole bunch of Elastigirl action and no action from everyone else. And there were some cases where it did feel like that, briefly, but don't worry. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. And of course, a big part of the movie is the family discovering that Jack does indeed have some superpowers. So the family has to deal with this unpredictable baby that's floating around, going through walls, teleporting, doing a whole bunch of stuff that is just unexpected. It makes for some really good humor. I never really burst out laughing during this movie because I was just so into it and shocked by what was going on. I was like, whoa, Jack just did that? Jeez, that is just so random, if not unrealistic. Sometimes the mannerisms of the baby were like, babies don't do that in real life. I mean, that's a really small nitpick though. Again, it was funny. Violet got a good amount of focus too. I was actually really appreciative of that because she was one of my favorite characters in The Incredibles. Because I always tend to sympathize with the shy, insecure teenage characters who are making a bigger deal in their head of the situation at hand than it actually is. Because that's what I do. I overthink everything. So Mr. Incredible has to take care of Violet's insecurity and Dash's rowdiness and Jack's unpredictability. That's really what being a father's like, huh? Can't wait! The villain in this movie is called the Screenslaver, and there's not really much I can say about the Screenslaver because, Screenslaver wasn't really in the trailers that much, but his power is hypnotism, uses screens to hypnotize people. And this villain is really good, and okay, to me, there are two different types of really good villains. One of those kinds is the kind that is just so formidable and poses such a threat that, the things the villain does just keeps you on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh my god, how are the heroes gonna beat this villain? That's the kind of villain the Screenslaver was. Kind of like Thanos. I mean, I didn't really feel any emotional connection to Thanos, but he was powerful as all hell. That's what the Screenslaver was in this movie. Just a huge threat. Great villain. Not as sympathetic as Syndrome from the first movie, but still a good villain. Anyways, moving on. One of the things I really appreciated about this movie is that its plot is completely different from the first one, which is great. A lot of sequels these days, like in Pixar movies or other movies, tend to be like carbon copies of the originals. I feel like Force Awakens is like the go-to example for that. I love the hell out of Force Awakens, but it, and even The Last Jedi, borrowed a lot of plot points from the original Star Wars trilogy. Incredibles 2, completely new story, with different plot twists and turns that keep you guessing. I mean, sure, there are a few throwbacks to the previous movie in this one, but only a few, not too many. And the action in this movie is intense. I mean, for me, it got to the point where I was on the edge of my seat because I just care about these characters so much. There are some real nail-biters in here, because you just don't know where this story's gonna go. It's unpredictable. And the cinematography's all great. Elastigirl's stretching, doing some really cool stuff. It's awesome to watch. I wish I saw this in 3D, but I didn't. I saw it in 2D, but still really enjoyable. One of the most impressive things about Incredibles 2 is its length. This movie's almost 2 hours long. It's an hour 58. Longest animated movie I've ever heard of. And it did push some boundaries. I'm not gonna say how, but there are some moments where I was like, wow, you actually said that in a kid's movie. Props. Just all sorts of props to Brad Bird. The guy is... This is why he's one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. Because of his writing. I mean, every single movie he's written and directed have been so good. The Iron Giant is one of my favorite movies ever made. And now Brad Bird has done it again. And of course, if The Incredibles is gonna have a sequel, you gotta bring back Michael Giacchino to do the score. Because people love his score from the first one. And he comes back and his score in this one is just as good. I mean, he brings back the themes from the original. That big band jazz, the wailing trumpets. He brings in some new themes as well. It's a great soundtrack. I'm gonna get it. Guys, in the end, Incredibles 2 was awesome. It's a great continuation from Incredibles 1. The characters are solid, the voice acting's really good, the animation, of course, it's Pixar, it's beautiful. The strong points of this movie, though, are the writing and the story. It's unpredictable, it's really well written, everything just sounds so natural, because that is just Brad Bird's style. I love it. And an awesome score to boot. For The Incredibles 2, I will certainly say, go see this movie right now. This is Pixar's best sequel since Toy Story 3. Quote me on that. So, Incredibles 2, have you seen it? What did you think about it? And how does it compare to the first one for you? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.